Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Heal Profoundly and Enduringly. So excited to be here today. Happy 4th of July, everyone. I always have so much fun doing this on a holiday. I find that so many more people come and hang out and chat because they're off work and they can hang out and chat. So welcome. And for those of you who have not been here before, this show is really all about bringing forward those out of the box tools that you may not traditionally hear of. And we're talking about healing and recovery from any kind of mental health or physical health issues. And this is your opportunity to not only grab resources and tools to add to your toolbox so that you can empower yourself to heal yourself, but to get to know new faces and new names that I know are reliable, wonderful humans who are doing beautiful service to the world. And I always encourage people, if you connect with Kristen, if you connect with anyone I bring on here, don't question it. Just reach out and start having a chat and a conversation, because it's those connections that open us up and help us heal even more rapidly. So today we're talking to Kristen Toth, and I'm so excited for her to be here. I'm going to tell you who she is. She's a certified trauma recovery coach who began learning about and working with the body and the nervous system almost 20 years ago when she became a licensed body worker to use her hands to help others heal. Since then, her professional path of client work, teaching, and in-depth study of the body has dovetailed with her own personal trauma recovery, leading her to now help others find safety and self-compassion through trauma-informed nervous system regulation and a somatic approach to healing. I love that so much, that work that we do for ourselves, that we feel so compelled because we believe so deeply in it to share it with other people. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your service. So grateful.
I'm really excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Laura.
You're welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about how our nervous system helps us heal. We can all benefit from this. Tag anyone that you know could benefit from having this conversation as well. Really, anytime you're nervous, well, Kristen's going to share this with us. But, as to how we can really tell when our nervous system is out of whack and how we kind of need to ground it and find safety within it. So the first question that I always ask everyone on this show is, what is that one thing that you feel is necessary to heal profoundly and enduringly?
Yeah, I love this question. And this feels like a big one, but I'm going to say safety. Mm-hmm. That I feel like safety, fundamental safety, is what's required for us to heal. If we don't have safety, if we're not safe, then we can't heal. We can only survive and exist and get through. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of us are doing a lot of the time, and what we have to do a lot of the time, right? So at a really fundamental level, we need physical bodily safety. We need our basic needs met of like food, water, shelter, human connection. And we need not only those needs to be met, but we need them to be secure. Like, we need to know that they're going to continue to be met in some indefinite future, right? And we also need embodied safety, meaning we need to be able to feel safe and let safety register in our bodies in a meaningful way that allows our whole being to move toward healing instead of having to be in a state of protection. And it's a real challenge because, one, we live in an unsafe and unpredictable world. And too many of us have necessarily, understandably, been shaped because of trauma, because of adversity and inequity, because of very real past and current stress, to protect and guard against unsafety. So we're unable to let safety land in us and to be in a state of connection to ourselves and to other. And that's where healing is possible.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Because it's so funny that you said that too, because I was just having a conversation with one of my mentors this morning about how I was like, oh my gosh, this is a concept that I've understood intellectually for a while. Not what we're talking about here, but just something else we were referring to. And I was like, yeah, I've understood this intellectually for a while, but I said, I finally feel it within me. I was like, now I feel like I fully embody it. And that's the sustainable part. I was just celebrating it, because I was like, now I feel like this is so sustainable. I know with confidence it's sustainable, because I don't just know it. I feel it, I embody it, I resonate with it. Like my whole body gets it.
Exactly. That's how
Mhm.
change happens. That's how healing happens. And
Mhm.
so in order to get safety to happen for us in that way, we
Mhm.
can't just like be working with mindset and tell
Mhm.
myself I'm safe and I have what I need. Like that doesn't cut it
No.
for most of us who are dealing with larger, broader, longer term patterns of survival stress because of our history or because of current stress even, right? So we need a different way. We need like ways and tools to be able to come into that more embodied experience of
Mhm.
not just knowing that we're safe, but creating safety for ourselves
Mhm.
and letting that register like from the bottom up instead of just trying to make it happen from the top down.
Yeah, that is so important. And I think it's brilliant that we're having this conversation on Independence Day in the US, because there's so many people who are, boycotting Independence Day because of the Roe versus Wade decision. So I
Yeah.
think that being able to keep bringing it back to ourselves, right? Like we get to find safety within ourselves. We get to find safety within us, regardless of what's going on around us and how unsafe it may feel. So thank you for this message, because I think it's so timely. I would love to know a little bit more about your own path. Like what brought you to this work of helping other people find safety to heal?
Yeah. So my own path has been like really a lifetime of experiences kind of weaving together and coming together over time. But a big part of it is my own personal history of growing up in a family system where I experienced what I now understand as complex trauma, but which for a really long time I just experienced as the effects of that, as symptoms of intense anxiety and depression and eating disorder from a very young age.
Mhm.
And then going the traditional route of like talk therapy and counseling and that sort of thing, but not really making a whole lot of headway ultimately.
Yeah.
And then when I was in my early 20s, I went to massage school and thought it was a good idea, didn't have any grand plans, didn't really have a sense of what I was getting into. But suddenly my focus was really directed toward the body and toward my body. And the more I started learning about the body and the more I started touching into my own body's experiences, the more echoes of my own past like started to bubble up. And all this was really fascinating and also really horrible and
Yeah.
uncomfortable to experience, right? So I found myself like riding these waves of trying to manage my own experience and emotions and symptoms while also learning to be present with other people in order to help facilitate their own healing and ease in their own bodies. And so I did that. About 8 years into that, I was shifting into a place where I was starting to teach body work. And in addition to working with clients and being in private practice, and I was speaking with a colleague of mine who was also kind of a mentor at the time, and just describing to him like some of my struggles that seemed like they had been going on forever. And he suggested that it sounded like what I was dealing with were the effects of trauma. And that kind of threw me for a loop. Like
Mhm.
it had never entered my mind as a possibility that that was something that was part of my experience. I knew I had experienced a lot of dysfunctional dynamics in my family, but I had previously associated trauma and PTSD with war and combat, or maybe with
Yeah.
like intense, repeated direct physical abuse. And I hadn't experienced any of those things. So
Mhm.
it was like totally out of the picture. So this opened up something. It it opened up like this whole world of this intersection and influence of trauma in the body. And so
Yeah.
I started to understand exactly how integral the body is when we're really dealing with stress and trauma, and how that's where stress and trauma happens, that it happens in the body, so that we have
Mhm.
to address it there.
Yeah.
And that's really what makes the most sense. And it's also what's missing in so many other interventions and treatments for trauma and stress, um, that try to work from the top down,
Yeah.
instead of working from the bottom up.
I get so excited about this. I just get
It's
so
big,
excited about this
yeah.
because I love hearing other practitioners talk about this vital education and this vital process, because I mean, I've been a therapist for 20 years, and trauma gets stored in our bodies. It gets stored in our cells. And it's so funny to me. There's two things that are coming up when you're talking. One is that I specialized in eating disorder treatment for 20 years as a traditional therapist. And you are on the other side, right? And I was on this side and had the same experience. Like, this just isn't enough.
Yeah.
This isn't enough. Like, this talk therapy. And I've always been a very outside of the box thinker and practitioner, and including all sorts of types of professionals in our treatment, from nutritionists to psychiatrists to family members to schools, et cetera. Just wasn't enough. Didn't go deep enough, So, and that doesn't mean that therapy isn't productive for some people, but I also do 100% believe it's only one layer. And it's that top down approach that most of the time, yes, there are some, it's starting to come online a little bit with certain embodied practices, which I'm happy about. But yeah, so there's that piece. And then what's also funny is that I have this mastermind with high-level spiritual entrepreneurs who have been doing healing for years. I mean, they're so embodied. They're so high level in terms of what they can offer to their clients. And my mastermind includes a trauma-informed care certification, but it's all energetic and spiritual, because I have a million trauma certifications, but they're all from the traditional therapy world. Yeah. And it's so funny because these women came into this container not having any idea, just like you were saying, that there was still trauma stuck within their bodies. Right. And like, we started doing this work and they're like, whoa, I had no idea that I was going to get this out of this space. You know what I mean? Because it's true. It's like, you have that awareness and you're like, wait, I've been working on this for my whole life.
Forever.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean dive back in and stir it all up, but it's just so amazing how, when we're open to that awareness coming forward, we can very gently and delicately go to somebody like you to ground that and bring it back to the body and integrate it coming forward.
Yeah. And one of the great things about working with the body around stress and trauma is that it doesn't, like, a somatic approach doesn't necessitate that we go in and dig it all up.
Yes.
Like, so many times, people think that in order to deal with trauma, you have to deal with the story, and you have to tell the story, and you have to go through the experience and mentally process the experience. And that is very often a part of it, or a layer, or a piece. But it's not always the starting point. And so often what's more important is working with the responses that are showing up in the body to all of that story and that experience of what happened. But we can go to the body and support the body in different ways that doesn't involve us reliving the trauma. Because when we engage in therapies and interventions that require us to relive and retell, when our system isn't resourced enough to be able to hold those experiences, when our system is still completely overwhelmed by them, then we can actually get stuck even more, right? Yeah. But by taking the approach of working with the nervous system and working with the body, we're not bypassing all that. We're just working with it from a deeper layer.
Right.
Right. And I want to just kind of call back to something you said about therapy and trauma. It's not that doesn't work for people. It's not that that's not a piece. I'm a big fan of lots of different types of counseling and talk therapy and that sort of thing. And there's so many more interventions in that realm that are including the body and involving the body, and that are approaching things in a trauma-informed way that give people more choice and that have more awareness of nervous system states, and not working with people and not digging things up when we're in a state of survival and a state of overwhelm. That there's a lot of good work happening in that way. And whenever we're talking about healing from stress and trauma, we're always talking about a multi-layered approach. There's never one thing. It's never just talk therapy. It's never just somatic therapy. It's never just body work. It's never just acupuncture. It's like so many different things that are required and shift and change over time, because it's really long haul work.
It is. And that's why I love that you brought up the nervous system too, because we just need to create a relationship with it is really what it is. It's like a conversation. It's like, how do we have a relationship with it so that when it speaks to us, we understand what it's saying.
Exactly.
And then we adjust in the way that we need to honor that connection.
Right, exactly. And so what you're naming right now is a big piece of what I think is required when we're looking at like, how do we actually work with the nervous system, right? Kind of jumping to a few different places here, but this feels like, on track, just following what you just said, is you're talking about attunement and developing attunement with our own bodies and our own nervous system states, to be able not just to pay attention, because attunement's different than attention, right? Not just to pay attention to what's happening in my body and I feel stressed and then like try and do something about the stress. It's like a deeper listening. Attunement is a deeper listening to what is my body and my system telling me? What are the cues that it gives me? What ways does it communicate with me? How do I know in my body whether I'm in a state of safety or I'm in a state of survival, right? What is my breath doing? What is my voice doing? What are my eyes doing? Where is my focus? What do I notice in my environment, right? There's so many pieces where, we haven't been shown, most of us haven't been shown or taught how to attune to ourselves.
Yeah.
And not just to listen in that deep way, but to know how to respond, right? And to respond from a place of compassion and clarity, instead of responding, noticing what's wrong and responding like trying to fix it, right? Because when we're doing that, we're operating from a place of survival. That's how we fix things when we're in a state of survival, or that's how we try to heal when we're in a state of survival. Right?
Like that's what I used to do before I learned this stuff. It's like it would come up and I'd just be like, no. Like, I want this to go away. How can I make this go away? You know what I mean?
Manage it. Yeah.
Yeah. How do I manage it? Exactly. And I had all the tools to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was a Band-Aid every time. It was just a Band-Aid, and it would provide me with that temporary relief, but then it would be this cyclical experience that it burns you out. It does.
Yeah, it's exhausting. It's like part of what you're saying is like, to me, like the difference between coping and healing. And coping is important. It's really important. And sometimes that's all we can do, especially when we don't have the safety that we need from the outside. Because yes, it's incredibly important. And part of what I work with is to help people learn to find safety and feel safety from within, like regardless of what's happening outside. And we can't ignore the fact that that we are relational beings and we're in constant relationship with other people and with our environment. And when things are happening in the world around us and in our environment that are threatening our safety and dignity and belonging, then it's really hard to not be in a state of survival, right? So like recognizing a relationship and cultivating a relationship with our own nervous system, attuning to our own nervous system, and also understanding and seeing how that relationship develops in a larger context and relationship of me with my friends, me with my family, me with my community, me with the world, me with my culture, right?
I totally feel you. That was actually one of the big things that really supported me and helped me as I was learning more about the nervous system too, is like that co-regulation with other people. Because it's so funny because every time I take the Myers-Briggs personality inventory, every time I've ever taken it, I'm like 92% introverted. I'm like always between like 86 and 92% introverted, which is so funny because I'm very animated when I'm with people. Like I'm very animated, but man, I mean, I would love to spend, and I do spend a lot of my time by myself, but like, especially as a spiritual being too, like, and continuing to deepen my immersion with myself, I'm just always I love that alone time. And I love that space for myself.
Yeah.
And especially when you're starting on this spiritual path, there's a lot of withdrawal. There's a lot of like going within and being able to identify, you know, what is my truth? Like, what is my clarity here?
Right.
And I believe that I needed that for a period of time because I had experienced complex trauma for so many years. And I think that I needed a lot of that like little cocoon to
Yeah.
support my healing as well. But then it's about that stepping back out into, you know, co-regulating with other people and doing it with my family first, and then with people outside of that, and then people outside of that. And it's so beautiful to see, just to watch and witness the expansion, you know, in your
Yeah.
own within and how you interact with others. It's just beautiful. It's a way of getting to know yourself even more.
It is. It really is. And, you know, co-regulation is perhaps the most powerful way that we find safety in our nervous systems as humans. And for many of us, connection with others has not been safe.
Exactly.
Right. So that's really challenging. That makes relational safety and embodied safety very challenging. So one of the things that I find really relieving and helpful to realize about this when we look at like how our nervous system is wired for safety is that yes, connection with others is of primary importance. And we can also find goodness and safety and connection with ourselves, with our bodies, with other non-human beings, right? Like our pets and animals, with nature. We can find safety and connection with ancestors and spirits and something bigger than us, right? God, spirit, universe, whatever name we give to it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when especially for those of us who've experienced complex trauma and find such challenge around safety in connection with others, then sometimes the place where we start is safety in connection with nature, with our dog and cat, with ourselves, with our body, with our like physical body, with spirit, with things other than having to be in direct relationship with other human beings all the time and thinking that that's the only way that we find that safety, because it's incredibly important. And ideally, as we heal our nervous systems, we gain a greater capacity for finding that co-regulating safety with others. But I run across so many people who feel dismayed or frustrated or disheartened and devastated because that doesn't seem possible, or because that seems like it's such an overwhelming challenge. And they think there's no other place to start, but there really is. And the more we start finding safety and connection in other places, relative safety, then like I said, we can like grow our window of capacity to begin to allow safe co-regulation to enter in small bits. Right.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that provides a lot of hope for people who are afraid of stepping into this work, you know, and who don't know where that's going to take them, because it's true. As you take little step by little step, you're just going to feel your world opening in a way that feels very controlled, in a way that feels very safe and very like you're very held in it. Like you're standing taller, you're more confident in taking that next step, because that's fully true. And I've even felt that, you know, in my own experience of how that capacity just keeps expanding. And it's exciting. It's honestly exciting, because when you realize it and you have awareness of how, oh my gosh, like I can see myself being able to, now I can go do this without saying, oh, what happens if, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's exciting. And I also want to say that it can be really scary.
It can. Yeah.
Right? Like when we're working to reshape patterns, nervous system patterns of protection and survival for patterns of connection, then in order for us to be in a nervous system state of safety, that means that our survival instincts, our survival mechanisms and strategies are inhibited, right? So even just understanding that provides, I think, some clarity about why it can be so difficult for some of us to feel good things or to accept and receive good things, right? To allow that expansion and that growth to feel safe.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, because when we're doing this work of reshaping our systems to allow for greater safety, to allow for growth and clarity and confidence and connection that comes along with that safety, then that means our defenses start going down,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
registers in us oftentimes as unsafe. And so then our survival adaptations like clamp down even harder.
Yeah.
So it's so important that this work that we do like happens in small doses, right?
Yes.
That it's titrated, that it's so understandable that we like want to rush to the end where like we can like live our fullest life and be our fullest self. And in order to get there, the hard truth is that it comes in small bits. Like that's how our nervous system learns and repatterns.
And trusts us.
And trusts us. Exactly. Yeah.
And I can totally relate to that from the beginning of my journey. Like early on in my healing journey, we get so attached to the outcome as humans, you know? And I was just like, no, I want to be here. I want to be here. And there's all these people everywhere saying, I can get you there right away. I can get you there right away. And it's so funny because I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I do want to get there right away, but my nervous system doesn't.
Right.
And it's funny because that's one of the things that I teach that I've been teaching in my program is pace. You know, like being really conscious of, and being conscious of that space between the practitioner's pace for their own nervous system and the client's pace.
Yep.
Right. And being able to realize that there might not always be a match there. And so it's being able to identify, like, we may be operating at different paces, but we can meet in the middle there. And it's funny because I would love to be able to, my ego would love to be able to skyrocket to this, and this.
Yep.
But I am no longer available for that. I'm not available for that because I'm very, very tuned in to my nervous system and the pace that she desires. And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
It's okay. I'm here for you. I'm taking care of you. And when we have those responses, that's what I come back to is like, it's okay. We're good. We're safe. We do, this story is different now. The narrative's different now. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that reassurance and that trust that you've built with yourself, with your own system and your own body over time. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I imagine that you may have had the experience before you learned to do that of just overriding it.
Oh, all the time, like, pushing through.
I can push through. I can override it. Like, I've just got to get more done. I've just got to try harder. I've just got to go faster. I've just got to find like another thing. Right. But when we slow down,
that makes me need a deep breath.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I remember those times. Yes.
Right. It's horrible. It's so like that compounds the stress.
Yes.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Like if we're stuck in a state of survival and we're trying to find solutions to get out of the state of survival without any like clear pathway or like safe intervention or safe co-regulation or like a safe guide or companion along with us, then all of the solutions that we find are going to be override, push forward, and they're all going to reinforce the survival energy that's already happening. So we need something that gently and relentlessly interrupts that, that offers care and compassion, right? In a way that can be received in the moment.
Repetitively and consistently. I love that you said that relentless piece because, oh my gosh, I've been telling people that, especially clients who came to me in the past with OCD, you know, because it's like your mind is relentless with you.
Yeah.
You got to be just as devoted back to soothing your nervous system, right? And like intentional with it and serious about how vital that is for your relationship with yourself and for your longevity and prevention, you know?
Yeah. And relentless with the care.
Correct.
Right?
Compassion, you said that with.
As opposed to with like discipline, because plenty of us are like those of us who are like really suffering and also really driven will be relentless with our attempts to heal, right? Like we'll do all the right things. We'll check all the right boxes. We'll do 10 programs at the same time.
Yep.
We'll like go, have 3 therapists. It's like, we'll do all the things. We'll be relentless with our healing, but from a place of like power over and not power with, right? We want to be in a place of power with our nervous system and power with our bodies, power with ourselves, as opposed to power over, where I need to dominate and manage and like get this crazy mind and body under control, right? Yeah, that doesn't work. It hasn't worked for me. I've never seen that work. So that's not the way
it doesn't work. And this is why I love what you do. And this is why I love your vibe so much, because it's true. It's like, I must make a post every week or a reel every week that has that message of, don't make healing your job. Like, don't make this your identity, because you then give yourself the message that you're flawed, right? That there's always something to be healed. And it's like, no, we don't want to come from this space of desperation around, I got to do this. I got to grab this. I got to grab this. Cause we're still looking outside of ourselves. Right. And it's like, just slow down. And it's because we're trying to prevent slowing down, because we're still scared. We're still in fight or flight, but it's just understanding that and learning how to soothe. So is there one practice that you can show us today to kind of start to regulate a little bit, just to give people a starting point?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful segue, because with what you said, what a thought came up is like, we need to show our bodies that it's possible to be safe, to have a little bit of ease, right? And we need to do that in small doses. We don't do that through just like continuing to try and like making healing our job, right? It's like, how can I show my body that I'm that safety can land a little bit right now? Yeah. So let's do something just to take a couple minutes. We can do a really short practice of orienting, which is, it's not like something I came up with. Orienting is a practice that so many people do in so many different ways. And it just involves using any of our 5 senses to consciously and intentionally take in our present moment environment, and giving a few moments for that to land and register in our body and nervous system. When we do that, we're sending sensory cues of safety to the part of our nervous system that knows, okay, right now I'm safe enough to look around and be curious in my environment. I'm safe enough to pause. So because for most of us, sight is one of our more dominant senses, we can use our eyes to orient really gently. So I'll invite you to do this along with me, and anybody who's watching this can do it, or just watch it and do it later, right? And so what I'll invite you to do with your eyes is just to let your eyes kind of float up from the screen. All right, so we don't have to orient toward the screen. We can just orient to the space that's in front of us, kind of like at the horizon line. And we can gently, if you'd like with me, you can let your eyes start to wander along the horizon line to one side, and letting your neck and your head follow. So, and looking at what's at a distance. So if you're in a room, looking at the walls or the things that are far away from you, maybe you come to a window and you can look more at a distance outside. And you can let your head and neck follow your eyes all the way behind you, and take in what's behind you. Even though you maybe mentally know what's there, but now your nervous system is taking it in through your sight. And then letting your eyes follow that same pathway back. So tracing the horizon, tracing whatever's at a distance in the room that you're in, letting your head and neck gently follow, letting your eyes be soft as they'd like to be. And then when you come back to center, letting your head and neck and eyes continue the other way. So just taking in the horizon line, taking in your environment, whatever's at a distance. Again, if you notice a door or a window and you can look at a further distance, then you do that, and letting your eyes carry all the way behind you the other way. So you'll be looking at some of the same things, but you're seeing them from a new angle. And then slowly, softly letting your eyes and head and neck come back along the path that you traced to the center. And then if you like, you can let your eyes start to look up, look into the space above you, letting your head and neck follow. So if you're inside, maybe noticing where the walls meet the ceiling, noticing the ceiling and what's above you, or if you're outside in the sky, noticing the sky, the trees, whatever's above you. Coming back to center and slowly letting your gaze follow down to the horizon. And then if you like, dropping further down to look at what's below. So looking at the ground, looking at the floor, maybe even seeing your feet on the floor, your body on or near the floor if it's there. So looking at what's below, letting your head and neck follow. And then when you're ready, allowing your head and neck and your eyes to come back up to the horizon in front of you. Maybe letting them close just for a moment if that feels right. If not, you can leave them open. And whenever you're ready, you can let them gently start to orient back toward the screen. And as you do that, just noticing anything that you notice in your body now. Breath, temperature, pressure, spaciousness. Yeah. So Laura, if I don't know if you feel like sharing what that was like
no,
for you,
that was
you're
beautiful.
welcome to.
I just feel so calm. I feel like
Yeah.
so relaxed. And what was funny is that I did notice that since I was focused on my gaze, I was forgetting my breath. And so it was really cool for me to have that awareness and just to be really intentional with my breath once I recognized that in the practice. I was like, I'm focusing. And so I had kind of lost my breath a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, let's come back to the breath and incorporate both,
Yeah.
So I thought that felt really good that I was just able to respond to my body in that way,
Exactly. Yeah. What a great awareness. Wonderful.
That was so nice. Thank you. And I love strategies like that because you can be anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. Yeah. Like this isn't something that, oh, I'm going to start tapping in the middle of the grocery store. Right. Like, and tapping's great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But it's also like, being able to just pause. I love that you said, and I think that's a beautiful mantra for people to take away too, is it's safe to pause. It's safe for me to pause, and that's really what your practices are wanting to get people to. Like it's safe to not just know that, but to embody that it's safe for me to pause and to really feel what that feels like and how much that can just bring your nervous system down,
Exactly. Yeah. And even if it's just for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, like let that be enough for right now. It's not enough to turn everything around, but we already know we can't turn everything around in an instant or in a day or in a week, right? What we can do is start to offer these moments and small opportunities of safety directly to the body, like we just did, and start to make practices of that. And there's a million different ways to do that, as many as there are individuals, right? Yeah.
I feel so zen now. I don't even want to talk.
I'm curious, what in your body lets you know that you feel zen or calm? Where do you feel that, or how do you feel that in your body?
I get like a tingling sensation, almost like my limbs are going numb.
Yeah.
That's what I get. It almost feels like my limbs are going numb. My breath slows. I just want to I just feel guided to close my eyes.
Yeah.
And I just feel like my cheeks relax.
Yeah.
Like my jaw loosens and I almost feel like a sinking almost in my chair.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those things, what you just described was beautiful because, at first you said, oh, that's so great. I feel so calm. I feel so zen. And then we just took 20 seconds more to let you and your body really register. How do you know that? What is that experience like in your body? And you found so much. You found a tingling sensation, at your arms and legs, a deeper breath, a relaxing of the jaw, something that felt like it was sinking. It's like, okay, let's be with that for 5 seconds more. Right?
I
Like
love that.
even just that is a way to like deepen a simple practice like this. So thanks for doing that with me.
No problem. You know what I'm doing when I close this sucker up. I'm going to be like, oh. Oh, that felt really good. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here today. I love your energy. I love what you're doing in the world. It's so necessary. And anybody who is watching here, please just start a conversation with Kristen. She's not like a celebrity because she's on Facebook Live. So she will have a conversation with you if you reach out to her. So we're going to, we're going to drop the links here so that you guys can just easy peasy, click, say, yo, loved your show. That's all you need to say. And we have your website being dropped in addition to your social media, Heart and Circle on Instagram and your Facebook. So feel free, guys, reach out to either of us, anytime if you have questions about this, or if you feel like, oh, this resonated, but I don't know about that, just ask. You're not going to know till you ask. And we all have different pieces of information as human beings in this world, and we're meant to share them with each other. So let's share them. And thank you for being here, Kristen.
You're welcome. Thank you. I just want to mention really quickly, because it's coming up really soon, that I do have a program that's starting next week. If anyone visits my website, then they'll see information about that. But it's centered around embodied resource and finding safety in the body. So if anyone has any questions about that, then they're welcome to reach out.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for reminding me, because we talked about that at the beginning and I wrote it down and then I forgot to say it because, I got into Zen state, dude.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're so welcome. And honestly, guys, this is the kind of work too, that doesn't just benefit us, like it benefits everybody in our lives, because we get to hold that space for ourselves. And then we feel that solidarity in relationship with others. So, yes, thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. What were you going to say? Were you going to say something else?
I was just going to add on to what you said, that like when we work with our own nervous system regulation, then we get to give the gift of co-regulation to other people. Right. So we get to show up better for the people and the things and the causes that we care about. It's a seesaw balance all the time, right? Because we need support and safety from outside of us in order to have safety in ourselves. And yet the more we can do to support ourselves, the more we're able to support the world around us and to affect the change we want to see, and to have the relationships and communities that we want to see and we want to bring into the world. So this doesn't feel like selfish work to me.
Oh, not at all. And you'll feel it once you start doing it. You're going to see how those relationships and that relational safety shifts. You're going to see that. You're going to feel it. And it's really beautiful to be that model, and to hold that, where people are, you're not telling people go do this, it'll make you feel better. They're just witnessing you. They're just witnessing you, and they're benefiting from what the shifts you've made. Okay. We could talk all day. So thank you, friends. And stay tuned for next week. I will be live again, same time, same place, with Heal Profoundly and Enduringly. Have a beautiful, beautiful 4th of July, and we will see you very, very soon. Bye, friends.